Yo, this is your next video podcast. This one's called The Second New Deal, and you're supposed to be taking notes on that funky note guide with all the crazy shapes on it. I thought that'd be a little more interesting to look at than the other note guides. So the question is, why do we need a second New Deal? Well, it's a couple years into FDR's presidency. Remember, the stock market crash was 1929. He took office in 1933, which is the worst year of the Depression. And even though the New Deal programs did a lot of good for some people, there's still a lot of people suffering, right? So he said he wants to reach more people. And you'll notice that the second New Deal, these new alphabet soup programs, they turn even further to the left. When I say left, remember the political spectrum we went over in class? Talking about like the left, Democrats on the left, the liberals, Republicans on the right, the conservatives. So if middle of the road, right here in the middle, if FDR is a little bit left of middle, we're saying that now he's going to be pulled even further left, meaning more government involvement, more programs. And these are those programs. There's 8 programs that you're going to take notes on here. So let's get started. The first one is called the Works Progress Administration. Don't forget to write down anything that's underlined here, okay? Works Progress Administration. Really, it's the same deal as the PWA from before, Public Works Administration. Basically, just young men able to work, lift heavy things. Maybe they're using shovels, but they're building things for the public, the benefit of the public. This was a big one, though, for sure. So it's approved in 1935, again 2 years after the first New Deal, and it's a relief program to further battle unemployment. So it's just here, let's have the federal government give you jobs. Okay, building projects including hospitals, schools, airports, and even playgrounds. So those are the kinds of things you're supposed to write down. What's underlined, don't forget. Another side note, though, is some people really liked how they used this program to put unemployed teachers or artists or writers and actors back to work. They paid them, these people had been out of work for a couple years. They paid them to do their thing, to do what they did best, and to put on shows or to make artistic masterpieces, I guess, and I guess sell them, get paid for it. I'm sure, which must have been such a relief for the people. And it improved the quality of life in the communities all across America. WPA. So of course at this point, after each of these slides, when I'm done talking, you can pause it and finish writing everything you need to write. Alright, an example of WPA, I hope that I said this in class already, but the Works Progress Administration helped with the construction of parts of North Park and actually building of McKnight Road, which used to be just, from what I understand, a big valley with a creek down the middle of it, but it's obviously been paved over, and there's a huge pipes underneath carrying what used to be the creek. It floods every once in a while, though, because of that. Oh, I didn't know that. Wow, FDR did some construction work. Wow, that's pretty neat. Good for him. He looks good. Next program, Social Security, 1935, right down the year. And this says, for the first time, the government accepted direct responsibility for meeting the basic needs of its citizens. So it's saying people are in desperate need, meaning old people, right? People who no longer work because they're retired. But oh no, they're suffering, so let's help them. So it instituted a pension plan. A pension is that money you get when you retire. Hopefully you have some money there from when you're older. And survivors benefits for elderly, orphans, okay, so orphans like children who don't have parents, and those injured in industrial accidents. Okay, so if you're hurt on the job, you would be able to collect Social Security, and I think this is still true. I'm pretty sure both of these are still in effect. And I think today it also includes special needs. Children with special needs can apply for Social Security. So there's some kids in our school who get money from the government, and I think it falls under Social Security. Many did not qualify, especially minority groups. So that's one downfall. But this is still around today. It's still around. Ask your grandparents. If they're old enough, if you're over, I think they changed the years. It always used to be 65. I think they might have lowered it, or increased it. But they get a check from the government every month, and it depends how much you put in. If you worked like a job your whole life and you put in a lot of money every month, then you get more now. If you only worked a few years and didn't get paid as much along the way, then you don't get as much every month. So talk to your grandparents about it, please. This is a political cartoon showing that it's kind of like a gamble nowadays. The Social Security is so expensive, right? We have so many older people that are retired, and the baby boomers are starting to retire now, like people my parents' age have retired, that we got to pay for them, right? People are having fewer kids. There's less of us to pay for more of them. So they're gambling like a scratch-off card, like the lottery. See what they get. 2 bulls and a bear. I wonder how much that is. By the way, that was a bull market and bear market joke right there on the picture. All right, next program, National Labor Relations Act of 1935. Again, 1935. These programs, a couple years into his presidency, they also called it the Wagner Act because that was the senator who pushed for it. But passed by a labor sympathetic Congress, meaning Congress, congressmen who were in favor of supporting workers, as opposed to people who care more about like the big business leaders. So they created a powerful new Labor Relations Board, NLRB, National Labor Relations Board, and it would be these government agents, I guess you'd say, that would investigate practices and make sure the workers are being treated fairly at the workplace. And it says here it reasserted the right of labor unions to bargain collectively. Remember that from the beginning of the year? Meaning it gave, this is a huge deal, it gave unions the right to, gave workers the right to form a union. It says no company, you have to let the workers form a union if they vote to. If they choose to have a union, you have to let them now. And this was unheard of. People were really surprised that this went down, and I'm sure, of course, the workers are thrilled, right? But the wealthy business owners are not thrilled about this. So made up of a 5-member board appointed by the president, and they're the ones who get to oversee workers' rights. And they would go in and investigate charges of unfair labor practices by employers. So if they think that you're not letting the workers form unions, or if you're firing people just because they're a troublemaker with the unions, they will go and investigate. So it's a big, big, big help for the working class. And union membership went from being the lowest it's ever been in 1929 to like the highest it's ever been by the 40s. Thanks to this. All right, next program. Soil Conservation Act. Gee, I wonder what this act did. Oh, man, why do they have to make them so confusing in their names? Now, this one's easy, right? 1936. It's conserving soil. We got to help farmers, right? We love our farmers. You got to hug a farmer next time you see one. Required farmers to reduce the acreage. That's an interesting word, right? Acreage, meaning the number of acres. So this kind of picks up where the Agricultural Adjustment Act left off, I should say. Urged farmers and ranchers voluntarily, so they didn't have to do it, but it urged them to, hey, why don't you use some better farming techniques that we've been developing and researching, like planting ground cover vegetation, like low-lying ground cover vegetation over soil that's going to blow away, like remember from the Dust Bowl. And let's rotate our crops and rotate our fields, let some fields lie fallow, meaning don't grow them for a year so that they can rejuvenate the soil. Terraces, contour plowing. See these lines here behind Farmer Franklin here? These lines are contour plowing that I talked about in class. And hey, let's not plant farms on awful soil. That's a great idea. Someone should win a Nobel Prize for that one. And the Revenue Act. Revenue, meaning money coming in, like, oh crap, if the government actually needs money to pay for these programs. Yeah, so this program is trying to raise some funds. So they increased taxes on the incomes of wealthy corporations and individuals to make up the difference. It affected a pretty small amount of people, and it actually didn't really work all that well. It did not dramatically expand the government's revenues. Alright, so this New Deal that's so expensive, the first and second New Deal, we're going to have to find some other ways to pay for it. And this upset business leaders because they're the ones who have to pay these taxes, right? Of course, they're not going to be happy about it. And the business leaders often said things like, this is a hell raiser, not a revenue raiser. Meaning they're going to be very upset. All right, this one's a little familiar. The Second Agricultural Adjustment Act, 1938. This one established loan and crop storage programs. It picked up where the first AAA left off, but that one was declared unconstitutional, and I guess they fixed whatever Supreme Court had a problem with. So crop storage, so keeping excess crops so we can use them in the future. Provided payments for groups who restricted their production. So it paid you to grow less than you were before to control the supply, so you can get actually a good price. Crop insurance. It's risky to be a farmer. We need farmers to stay farmers, right? So what if you have a bad crop? What if there's insects eating all your food? What if there's a drought? We need to protect them, so they have crop insurance provided by the government to make sure that you won't lose all your money and go broke. So had a permanent role in supporting farm prices and incomes. Hey, extra credit chance, please. If you can Google, what kind of crops does the government subsidize nowadays? What kind of crops does the government pay farmers to grow less of? If you can look that up, I'll gladly give you extra credit. And we have the Rural, my least favorite word to say, Electrification Act, 1936. Oh man, another hard one to figure out. How am I supposed to remember this? Nah, it's easy, right? Electrifying farmers, electrocuting them. No, just kidding. Enabled people to obtain electricity without utility companies. Blah blah blah. All this means is they helped farmers set up power lines so they could actually get electricity. Some crazy number, like only 10% of farmers at this point in the early 30s, only 10% of farmers had electricity in America. That's a pretty crazy statistic. And by the time 1950, I think we said like 90% of farmers have electricity. So huge improvement thanks to things like this and the TVA. You get the idea. So now think about it. It's good for the economy, right? If farmers can have electricity, they can buy all these other gadgets that people are buying. And that's all we have for the second New Deal programs. Don't forget to right now take the easy quiz on Blackboard to prove to me that you watched it. And that's all, folks.